Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers. And tell me, Bradley, how do you feel about spiders?
I guess, in my face, no. Existing as a part of the ecosystem to eat other disgusting things, sure. The myth from Greek mythology that is a woman/spider who kills people, definitely not.
Because it's sort of relevant to the next 6 episodes.
Okay.
We will be spending a lot of time dealing with spiders.
What are they really called, though?
Gorlectopods.
Gorlectopods, okay.
They're called gorlectopods.
I was like, they have a fancier name than that, just spiders. But don't they reference them as spiders as well throughout the non-locals, right?
They do, and that's a deliberate choice, that the locals refer to them as the gorlectopods.
Right.
And the non-locals who are listening to Imperial News refer to them as spiders. So, friend of the show, Aaron, hi Aaron, is in the process of watching Andor Season 2 with her partner.
Nice.
And reported back to me that not enjoying the spiders, not enjoying the up-close and personal look at the gorlectopods.
Oh.
And I said, yes, aren't they just emblematic of the Ghormans? Aren't they slightly off-putting and haughty? Don't you feel slightly negatively towards the Ghormans having to watch all of these spiders? She doesn't know what's coming.
Okay. Oh, she has no idea whatsoever.
Well, she knows something is coming because her partner is a Star Wars Legends nerd.
Oh.
And her partner knows what the Ghorman Massacre is. But he doesn't know what's coming in this block of episodes because we will talk about the reason in this episode. Actually, next episode, we will talk about the reason he thinks the Ghorman Massacre is something different.
Oh, okay.
And that, Bradley, is how you do a mild segue.
Okay, well, this week we're talking about Andor Season 2, Episode 4, Ever Been to Ghorman. Cassian and Bix adjust to a Luthen safehouse. All eyes are on Ghorman. Wilmon visits Saw Gerrera. One thing you liked about this episode and one thing you did not.
We have started seeing some of the sets that are going to carry us through the next 6 episodes. And in fact, all the way to episode 12. And when we talk about using your budget, this is the one thing I liked, by the way. When you talk about using your budget effectively, and you talk about producing, and you talk about how do I create a piece of media, a visual media, how do I create something that's going to be budget conscious and something that I can really utilize to tell this story. The brilliance of how they've written the next 12 episodes to use a lot of the same sets, that we're just going to see the same locations repeatedly throughout the next couple of years, I think is a brilliant way to utilize both the fact that they now have to condense these storylines down into these episodes, but also make sure that those sets pop, that we're going to use the safe house again. We're going to use Syril's house again. We're going to use the Ghorman set. We will talk about the fucking Ghorman, the Palmo Square set, because Jesus fucking Christ. But they knew we can get so much usage out of these sets that we can really just pour everything into them. And it feels beautiful. It feels lived in. It feels like the safe house and the square and all of that is going to change throughout. So I really liked seeing them for the first time here and looking back on it, having now watched the rest of the show, seeing how they're setting up these various locations that they're going to use throughout the show. One thing that I disliked about this episode is doing a lot of telling and not necessarily showing yet. It's trying to catch us up to a new planet. It's trying to introduce us to a fuckload of new characters, and it's doing its absolute best to try to demonstrate things about the Ghorman front through the story as it is progressing forward. Unfortunately, because it's setting up 6 episodes worth of content, it does have to grind to a screeching halt at points to be able to do that. And so there are definitely points in this episode. I love the Mon Mothma scene. We will talk about the Mon Mothma scene. It kind of is there to just set up the Ghorman senator and set up some of the stuff with the Senate that we're going to need in episode 9. I'm constantly mixing up 9 and 10 because they're both 10 out of 10s for me. But some of the stuff with the Ghorman front and some of the stuff with like trying to set up for us where we're going to go definitely felt a little more telly instead of letting us experience things. It felt like there were some bits where they didn't trust the audience enough. What about you, Bradley? One thing you liked, one thing you did not.
I really love Star Wars France. I think it's great. Paris, Star Wars Paris is amazing. I'm just kidding. No, I actually, I do like Gorman. That's not the one thing I really liked, but I thought it was really nice. It's just a good set. But the one thing I really liked was, it happened during the Syril scene where he's trying to get into work after hours. I just like how we have moved past what we're calling Easter eggs, and everything is not an Easter egg. It is just an in-universe thing. And I really liked how the security guards were watching pod racing on their time off or whatever. I just thought that was just really nice. Like it's just they don't glorify it. They don't make you like stare at it for like 5 hours and be like, look, they're watching pod racing. It's obviously from the prequels. Like, no, it's just in universe, and I just like that. Like it's just something that just exists. We don't have to talk about it. It's just there, and then I just appreciate it. Like I like hearing the sounds of the pod racing and being like, oh, I know what that is. But if you don't know what it is, it's not integral to the plot. So I don't know. It's just like a nice thing just to know what it is. That's just one thing I liked. And the one thing I didn't like, I'm with you. I just thought there was a lot of just let's just set up the next arc. Really, I felt like that's what this whole entire thing is. Really, it's just they spend a lot of time on Gorman. It's literally the next 6 episodes is on this plot, and I thought that like as good as the actual back 3 episodes are, or really the back 2 for the Gorman plot is, because that's when all the action kind of happens. I I almost think that it's like an arc too many. I don't know. I think that maybe we spend a little too much time with this arc. I think that they could have. I can't explain it. I just feel like something could have else been on this arc. I don't think we necessarily needed to go to Gorman quite yet. I feel like 2 years in Gorman is a lot. So, but anyway, I mean, we'll see as we progress. Maybe I'll change my mind as the episodes keep going.
This is supposed to be 2 whole seasons, Bradley.
I know that's what I'm saying. So we're talking about like doing essentially what season 3 and 4 of that's what it would have been.
It would have been seasons 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's too long to be on Gorman, I think.
So we're still breaking this down by subplot. They have not really come together yet. So Bradley, you want to take us into what our first subplot is going to be? I think this is going to last us probably through episode 7. I'm going to guess episode 8 is the point where we're going to stop doing it this way.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think it works right now, or at least with the way I'm doing it, I think it works. I'm just not quite sure how it's going to get once we get to the end. I think once we get to the end, those last 2 episodes, we might have to just do it the old-fashioned way and just section by section, because I feel like it might be too crazy.
I have a sneaking suspicion that episode 6 is going to be the last one we do this way.
Okay. Yeah.
I think episode 7 being the way it is, and then going into we are not gonna wanna do 8 or 9 out of order. Because
I don't think we'd be able
plot
to.
is
Yeah.
so 8 and 9 is the point where all of the plots throughout all of the shows start smashing headlong into each other.
Yeah.
And this just continues for the rest of the show. So but for now, we're gonna keep doing it this way.
So before we get started, this is a new arc, so you know that means it's a new year. This story takes place in 3 BBY. Would you like to know?
Happy New Year, everyone!
Would you like to know what is happening in the galaxy during the you know what, here's the problem. I keep saying during the time of these episodes. Happening in the same year as this arc. I think I didn't clarify that.
What is happening in the same year as this arc?
Because I think the first arc I said happening at the same time. It's not necessarily happening at the exact same time as these episodes. It's just
tell us about 3 BBY.
So 3 BBY. Wow, that's really hard to say. 3 BBY. Most of 3 BBY is, when I looked it up on Wikipedia, is pretty much all of season 2 of Rebels. So I'm not going to go through every single plot point of Rebels, but just some of the things that were interesting in season 2. Princess Leia meets the Phoenix Squadron. Thought that was nice. So she has officially become Princess Leia this year. She was not before. I think she takes her namesake. It's in some kind of reference book or
Leia
something. This
Prince,
is
it's in the, so what's going on is it's the novel Leia, Princess of Alderaan by
oh, okay.
Claudia Gray, and it is a very excellent YA novel about how Leia becomes an adult and takes on responsibility and learns about the rebellion. And it was released as part of the Journey to the Last Jedi initiative, which means it features things from The Last Jedi, such as Vice Admiral Holdo and the planet of Crate.
Well, yeah. So this is kind of like Princess
Also,
Leia's year, you know?
contains the greatest of all Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, Brea Organa scenes in the dinner party that Ash told us about in our Mask of Fear, whereupon Brea makes things awkward by accusing Bail of sleeping with Mon.
Well,
That is also probably
isn't that
happening this year.
I was gonna say, isn't that delightful? And that is really interesting that all this side Mon Mothma stuff is happening that we're not seeing. So it is interesting. Also, more importantly, I thought, and one big moment that happens in season 2 of Rebels is Darth Maul is found living on Malachor, and Ahsoka and Darth Vader reunite and duel for the first time. So the Twilight of the Apprentice is happening in this same year. So it's a pretty big, significant moment in Star Wars history right now.
Yes. So if you're wondering where Darth Vader is during this plot, he is on Malachor, not being involved in any of this because this is government bureaucracy.
Right. He's got a few
And
more things to deal with.
when has Darth Vader ever had the time for government bureaucracy?
I don't really know. What I do like though is that the Inquisitors are still technically around. Some of them are dying right at this moment, but unfortunately, there's still a few left. So it is nice that at least by this point, there's still technically some around.
Well, you raise an interesting point because we're seeing kind of there's a thing that we're going to notice over the rest of the series, and particularly going through episodes 9 through 12, where some of the institutions that were set up at the dawn of the Empire, now that the Death Star is becoming more complete, now that the hold over the galaxy is more solidified, some of these institutions are starting to be removed. And so the Inquisitorius, pretty sure the Inquisitorius just gets wiped out on Malachor. Like there are Inquisitors running around. Maybe that last Tales of the Empire episode takes place
Right.
after,
Yeah, we don't quite know
but
yet. Yeah.
every other one is either defected or died by this point. So Inquisitorius is on its way out. In 3 years from now, the ISB is going to take a massive backseat. Like they are not going to be as big of a deal after A New Hope as they were in this show. So we are starting to see some of these old institutions die out, and we are seeing to see the rise of a much more militant imperial structure, and we are going to see that in play out in episode 8. But we should probably talk about this
Yeah,
episode.
let's get into it. Section 1. On Coruscant, Bix's nightmares escalate and she imagines confronting Dr. Course with the blaster. Cassian interrupts her hallucination and disarms her. Later, they disguise themselves to buy some food, and back at their safe house, they cook and discuss reporting the killing of an Imperial soldier to Luthen. Bix struggles with guilt, but Cassian advises it gets easier. Over dinner, she expresses frustration with their constant running. The next morning, Cassian meets with Luthen, who assigns him a solo mission to assess Caro Rylands, a businessman and city official leading the Ghorman front. Luthen urges Cassian to learn more about the Ghorman resistance. Later, Cassian and Bix share an intimate goodbye before he departs for Ghorman. Bix unlocks a small container, revealing a hidden vial, and she squeezes it into her mouth.
Yeah, so our creepy doctor friend is back.
And someone we didn't like, well, he appears like for a second in a previous episode, right? Like in a kind of a flash, like when she's kind of having the first bit of nightmares, and then
Yep.
she's now hallucinating. He's in the
She's now
room.
hallucinating him. Yep. So he's a pretty major part of the plot of this arc, even though he very
Mhm.
rarely appears in it. That is Joshua James reprising the role. I don't even think we named him. I don't know whether or not
I
we
don't know if
named
we've
him in our
ever been
first
able to. Yeah, I don't think we've ever named him. So,
coverage.
well, there you go.
But he's been around. He's been in Black Mirror. He's been in Serrano. He's
I love
got
that.
he's got credits. They exist. He's been in Industry apparently, which I need to watch. In my thing I disliked, I talked about like having to do a lot of telling without showing and like explaining things to us.
Right.
This is mostly in regards to how the Ghorman front is presented. I do want to highlight this episode with regards to Bix and Cassian for how we are told something in a way that is still showing us things.
Okay.
Because The whole crux of this episode for Bix and Cassian is this disagreement they have about a mission that both of them were just on, which we don't see.
Right.
And we only learn about it through Bix and Cassian's conversation and Bix's hallucination. So we are never explicitly like shown what happens on this mission, but the way in which Bix and Cassian tell us about it reveals things about both of their mental states. It's honestly brilliant. I think it's a great way to pack a lot into these characters because it sets up they are going on missions and it sets up how ruthless Cassian is becoming and trying to protect Bix.
I do like that they're doing that. However, it did get a bit confusing because I guess when you're talking about just killing an Imperial, like, it gets a little like murky where I'm like, who are they talking about? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just always like a little confused. Like it could be anybody, at this point, which it is literally just a random person.
It's a
They're not,
random guy.
yeah, they're not talking about anybody specific. And I don't think I caught on to that until like, I think halfway through the episode. I think there's a certain point where Cassian is like, I'm the one who killed the person. And then that's part of it why I was getting like a little confused because at first I thought Bix did it, and then I was like, wait, no, it's actually him. She just feels guilty about it. And then it's all this like it was a little confusing, but I think I would have preferred though. I know you're saying, tell not showing, but I feel like I want to see the show don't tell because I would have liked just quick vignettes of them doing different missions, if that makes sense.
I kind of liked that they didn't show us that because it was a mystery that we could unravel as the episode went on.
Okay.
Because they only tell us, they tell us in the first scene that there's this random Imperial that got killed on the last mission that she's hallucinating. And then as the scenes go on, we get more context as to why Cassian did it.
Right.
So it's kind of dealing with the fallout of this mission that we didn't see. I also see where it's like, no, if the show had had more of like, if this had been a whole second season,
Well, if this had been a whole second,
we would have opened
it.
with
Yeah.
that. We
Yeah,
would have opened
opened
with
the
that
mission, right?
We would have opened with that mission and we would have
100%.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those spots where it's been hacked to the bone, but I don't really think you can see the cuts in this one as well. I think it
Okay.
still works pretty well as it is. I do think it is interesting to note too that part of the reason it takes us so long to get this, like get explanation, is that Bix won't talk to Cassian about like what she's hallucinating very much. That she
Right.
started internal. Like clearly he knows because he says, "Is it Dr. Gorst?" In a later scene, he will ask, "Is it Dr. Gorst?" And she will say no for something that we didn't see that was keeping her awake.
Right.
But I do think it's interesting that it's a clue to the twist at the end of this episode that she's not really talking to him about what she's seeing anymore. I think it is hilarious that Bix has to turn like dinner into a mission to
Just
get
for Cassian to leave
do
the
it.
house. Yeah.
It's just like, no, this is the mission. The mission is dinner. It reminds me of having to like, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to qualify it. It reminds me of having to tell like a kid that like, oh, we're going to go, this is the secret agent mission. We're going to go get dinner. But at the same time, for someone like Cassian, who has been through what Cassian has been through, he does kind of need that structure. As much as he later on in the show will try to leave the rebellion, this is one instance where he kind of at this point needs the structure of the rebellion and doing things for Luthen.
Yeah, because I think if you want to compare it slightly, like we've talked about how Deedra has to have control in her relationship with Syril. It's kind of like that whole like keeps her sane kind of thing to control somebody. I think that it's kind of similar here. I think Cassian is in his stage of I need to be a soldier right now. I need to just follow direction. I need to just have structure because he feels spirally right now. Like they both do. I mean, Bix and Cassian both are kind of spiraling slightly. So they need that structure. The difference is Bix feels like she's trapped and she can't get out. And Cassian feels like he doesn't have control over the situation. So he has to just follow the rule. Like, okay, I'll just do the next mission,
Right. And it actually moves really nicely into the next scene that they have together, where like they get into this conversation and it turns into this discussion about this Imperial trooper that they killed. And we get to see kind of how Cassian has started compartmentalizing things,
Right.
which I think is also clear from the previous scene where he's like uncomfortable in the convenience store. He has to treat it like a mission in order to be able to do it. And now we see the way that he's starting to think about Imperials is much more compartmentalized. He
Right.
has a great line where he says, quote, "You put on the uniform, you take your chances," end quote. When Bix is like, "Yeah, you fucking killed that guy.
Right.
Like, you don't know anything about him." And he's like, he was wearing an Imperial uniform. That is what I know about
That's all I
him.
need to know. Right.
And he even also says later in the same scene, quote, "You and I are here now because he's dead. It had to be done," end quote. I think that's actually his last line of that scene.
Right. He's just justifying everything because it's the only way he can deal with it is that by
Yep.
justifying it.
He has to think in terms of very clear mission parameters.
Right.
And Bix is not thinking that way yet. She's not in a position to where she can really make her brain do that. I do want to point out before I blow too far past that one scene, I do like how it's interesting that Bix wants to make the safe house like a little more homely, that she wants to like do different things with the windows, and it's a
Hmm.
little bit of it is practical, but also like she wants to make it a little more comfortable if they're going to be spending a lot of time there.
Which makes sense because it's not, and you're right, it's more practical, but it's also or her way of coping with that kind of feeling like they're trapped, like they can't leave the house because Cassian's like, ugh, we can't go outside, like we can't go out for a walk in the park. There's cameras in the
There's cameras in
thing.
the park, yeah.
Yeah, we can't go out there. That's obviously not safe. And she's like, we'll wear a hood, like we'll cover our face. You know what I mean? Like we'll do something. I just want to get out. So her being like, oh, I just want to buy some curtains or I want to buy some towels for the apartment or something is just her way of just trying to semi-normalize their situation.
Yeah, and I think that's the big disconnect, particularly in the scene, the darker dinner scene that they're having where they eventually break down and have their argument. Part of the disconnect is Cassian is very like mission focused and very we must focus on the rebellion, we must focus on the immediate task at hand. And Bix is very much like we have to live a life, dude. Like we got to
Right.
have something. It can't just be this all the time. But also his mission in a lot of ways he feels like partially involves protecting her. And Bix is like, she doesn't want to be, I don't know how to phrase it. She doesn't want to be protected at the expense of actually winning the war.
Right.
She's trying to think bigger picture as well. And I do think that is also partially overwhelming her. Is she's trying to reconcile this normal life that she clearly wants with the life that she has, and it's not really quite clicking yet. So there's that scene where like Cassian goes to meet with Luthen, and before we get into that, I have to just point out that I think it's great that Luthen like uses a flashing tower light that literally everyone can see. He has the fucking bat signal.
You gotta be obvious to be hidden, I guess is like the phrase. I don't
What
know.
the
It's like
fuck does that mean?
I don't know. It's just his way of being. It's also kind of, I guess it's also his way of being rebellious, right? Like I'm doing this thing out in the open and they don't know what I'm doing and it's right under their noses. You know how Cassian has that line from season one, you walk right in, you just act like you belong kind of thing. It's kind of similar. Like Luthen's just kind of doing things out in the open that they're so important and they're so self-important that they don't realize what he's doing. And so it's just
Right.
like a nice like little yeah, but I do like that it's a bat signal essentially. Like, all right, Cassian, come talk to me. Like
It's a Cassian signal, yep. And then does he just like, I wonder if the flashing contains like time, like there's a Morse code thing here, but I don't really
that
think so.
part, because I'm
Because
thinking like
Cassian meets him during the daytime. They see it at night, and then
right.
Cassian meets it during the daytime.
It is kind of odd because also I'm also thinking like there's a lot of buildings and a lot of lights in on Coruscant. So I just feel like that is well, I guess you know what they do have. I don't know if it's Cassian has the conversation with Bix. I can't remember, but they're talking about how or Cassian says something about like the chaos of Coruscant is what's keeping them hidden. Like,
Right. And that's
yeah,
why they're here, is they're
right,
hiding like in the middle of a city
right under their
center,
nose. Yeah.
right under their noses, as opposed to
Hmm.
like somewhere in the outer rim.
Right.
I find it interesting Luthen notes that Clea specifically was the one who put the radio on Ghorman, because there's definitely very heavily implied that Clea's making a lot of the decisions here.
Yeah, I think I saw an interview. I know it's just like one of those post-show kind of interviews, but like
Right.
Tony, the writer of the show, for those who don't know, I guess
For
at
those
this
who
point.
don't know, Tony Gilroy is the lead writer and showrunner for Andor.
He was giving an interview talking about how Clea is actually the boss and Luthen
Oh,
is
it's
just
very
following her
clear.
orders.
It's very clear that she is the one in charge.
Yeah, I love that.
I also find it interesting that Bix has to stay behind.
Yeah, Luthen kind of is like, ooh, I don't think Bix is really
Well, there's
gonna.
something going on here, and we'll talk about it next episode when
Okay.
Luthen visits her. But I think his thought is he wants to see, because these two have been operating together for so long, I
Right.
think he wants to see how they operate separately.
Yeah, it's
I
kind of a
think he
test,
wants
I
to see if
guess.
he
Yeah.
can divide his assets here and get two for the price of one.
I guess that makes sense. It's smart.
I'm not sure what the fuck was going on with the hand sequence. There was something vaguely sexual happening here. I know hand language is a thing. I don't know it.
I called it an intimate goodbye in my recap
Sure.
because I was like, I
Sure.
guess that's what they're. I guess it's a way for them to show not necessarily sex, but just how close they are, I guess, without being like, oh, they had to fuck before you left. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Which
which,
it is a beautifully
yeah,
shot
yeah,
scene, which is
it's great.
very intimate between Diego Luna and Adria Arjona. But also, we all know what happened. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
I think it's just we'll call this is the pre the
The
pre-sex.
priest, this is the foreplay. This is
The
foreplay
foreplay
for
right
them.
before. Yeah,
Well,
because I guess they are in a weird state too, because they had just been arguing and then they're not arguing, but then they are arguing, and so it's like a weird kind of thing for them. Like they're like they just kind of go back and forth.
I also think when we're talking about like different kinds of sex, like there's different contexts by which sex can happen.
Sure.
It would be very difficult to explore that in a piece of media where no, you can't really show them fucking on screen.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. This is not HBO
there are
7%.
obvious cases where people have had sex in the show. You can't really show it, and I think this is kind of a way to show their intimacy as opposed to just like people hooking up. This is as close as they were going to get, which I mean, it works. It conveys the general idea.
Right. It's better than them cutting to the tree blowing in the wind, like slightly panning away from the bedroom, and then you just know what they're doing
Or
afterward.
the random shot of the Coruscant skyline
Oh,
and the
there you go.
light turns out and Luke and Leia are busy getting conceived. I see you, Genndy
Oh
Tartakovsky,
yeah.
Clone
Oh, they
Wars.
should have done that. That would have been so great as a callback, like to zoom out of
That
their
would have been a
apartment and then the light
terrible
goes off.
callback. That would have been a terrible
No, I
call.
would have loved that.
Oh, that will happen. That will happen next episode. We will get a lights off moment, but we'll
Okay, you'll
get
have to
there.
call it out when it happens in the next one.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk very briefly about my experience watching this episode for the first time.
Okay.
Because there were 2 points in this episode where I went, Tony, are you sure? Are you 100% sure you want to do this?
hmm
Let's see where it goes.
Right. We don't
But
know anything
Tony, are
yet. Yeah.
you sure? And the revelation that Bix is abusing prescription drugs or abusing over-the-counter drugs, and as soon as Cassian leaves, immediately starts doping herself up
Right.
when she's alone in the apartment. I went, oh, I need to see where this goes, but this could very easily go to some not good places. Fortunately, I am okay with where it goes.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
put it that way.
Once we
But
get
when
to
I first saw
where
this, I was like, what are we doing, Tony?
it's handled in a way that I think makes sense. And I also like I'm with you. It's like, okay, let's pause. Let's not judge anything yet. We don't know what's gonna happen theoretically, right, at this point. So we don't know what this means. We don't even know what it is necessarily. So it doesn't, nothing is explained right away. I think we figure out, I think Luthen is the one who explains it in the next one, right?
Yes,
What
there's a
happened? Okay.
the next episode made this plot line kind of work for me.
Okay. But for those of you listening to this episode, you're gonna have to wait a whole week to find
To
out.
find out, yeah, you're gonna have to
No.
wait an entire week to find out
Yeah.
what I thought of the Luthen conversation, and then also the other scene involving this that we will talk about when we get there.
Section 2. On Ghorman, Syril dresses for work and notices a repairman watching him. He sets a thread trap on his door and leaves his apartment. He reaches the Bureau of Standards field office job and has a tense, calmly conversation with his mother. Unbeknownst to them, Ghorman rebels monitor their conversation. Caro, the apparent leader, discusses Syril's conflicted nature and finds him sympathetic to their cause. On his way home, Syril encounters anti-imperial protesters. A vendor recognizes him and gives him a spider figurine with a hidden message inviting him to a town meeting. He returns home, removing the thread trap and reading the message inside the candy. Later, he convinces two Imperial guards to let him into his office to retrieve files. In a secret room, he has a private video call with Deedra, informing her that the Ghorman front has contacted him. Later, Syril attends a tense town hall meeting where he is thanked by the young man who gave him the figurine. They discuss the town's unrest, and he listens to translations and insights. A woman, Enza, introduces herself and offers to introduce him to her father. After meeting her father, Caro commends Syril for attending and questions him about the secretive Imperial annex being built. Syril admits to the classified floor plans, fueling Caro's suspicion. He suggests future collaboration.
God, Ghorman is so European.
It's so French.
It's so French slash Italian. There's a lot going on here. Generally, it's mostly French. I feel like there's some Italian in here, but it's mostly French. So I have some trivia from the StarWars.com trivia guide.
Okay.
I'm quoting two of them here. Number one, quote, the signature green color of Ghorman was inspired by 1970s Italy and the avocado green bath suites of the era, end quote. Quoting further down the article, the architecture and culture of Ghorman was inspired by Turin in northern Italy, as well as Mecca and Medina in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so it is more kind of Italian than it is anything else.
Yeah, but we'll get to the language in a little bit, what the language is evoking. It's very much found another thing from the StarWars.com trivia guide, actually, that's relevant to this. Quote, costumes for the freedom fighters of the Ghorman front were inspired by World War II French and Italian resistance fighters. End quote.
I hesitate to keep bringing up French because as much as this is definitely Paris in Star Wars.
Oh, this is Space Paris. Without a doubt, they are doing Space Paris. Like, make no mistake, that's what this is. It definitely is.
My only thing about that is that because in previous Star Wars media, we all know that the Twi'leks are actually French people. So I just feel like this is
we're doing the French again, Bradley. We're doing the French resistance. France. We're doing the French resistance, but on purpose this time.
Yes. No, I think
last time we wound up with the French resistance because George Lucas is weird about Twi'leks.
Right.
This time we're getting it on purpose.
No, I do like this. I like the fusion though. I think it's really nice to see kind of the different bits of it. But I like that this is its own thing. And I do like that the Paris rebels basically is what I'm calling it.
Paris of it all.
The Paris of it all.
Let's talk about that set. Quoting from the StarWars.com trivia guide again, quote, the over 500-foot-long outdoor Ghorman set was built on the same Pinewood Studios backlot that once housed the Jakku Village and Maz's Castle ruin sets for The Force Awakens, Jeddah City for Rogue One, and the Kessel Landing area for Solo: A Star Wars Story. Ghorman was a complex build, encompassing the IOC lobby, hotel lobby, and cafe interiors, as well as the Plaza Streets Hotel and Imperial balconies, and heist escape tunnel exteriors.
Damn.
So this is a huge fucking set. He did not get to use this backlot for season 1. Apparently, according to Tony Gilroy, the fucking Little Mermaid was using it.
That sounds right.
And so this time he got to use it, and they used it to build Ghorman. So this is not a bunch of tiny sets and like a big set. This is one massive fucking set.
And it looks like it.
You looks
can
like
tell. It looks lived in. It looks like people are actually walking in the set. It looks like it doesn't look like we're on the volume. It doesn't look like it's in like a weird like green screen kind of situation. Like it looks very much there are people moving through this thing and it is huge.
It's going to feel a lot like a cauldron later on. Like the fact that it's this enclosed plaza with these high walls is going to make later episodes even feel more intense and horrifying because of the way this is designed too, with the steps leading down into it. Syril's walking through. He's having the classic conversation you have with your mom.
What I do love though is that it's not intercut, but it's like we see the B-roll essentially of Syril walking, but we hear the diegetic sound of him already on the conversation. I love that just because, well, mostly just because Edie is fucking hilarious, but
Edie is fucking hilarious.
I just love that so much, and I love their conversation too.
I love that Cyril's snarking back, and I know we'll find out he's playing a role.
Right.
Like this is specific.
He's pretending. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I feel like not all of this is pretending.
Yeah, he's
He's
pushing
really
it,
into it.
yeah, he knows what he's saying is like gonna push her buttons because he's also kind of like he's not reading from a script, but he is kind of engaging the Gormans who are listening to them. So he's kind of trying to say the right things, but I think also he's trying to put jabs in at his mom. And I think one of the things that the Gormans say, they're like, "Ooh, the mom is scary. Like, I don't like her." Like,
yep.
So
I
great.
do like that we see through her that the Imperial new propaganda is working because he
And
makes
she's
a point
literally
to be like,
saying it word for word what they said in that one episode. She was like, "Oh, they're so
and
like
then
important
and
stuff."
then she does the thing that older relatives fucking do when you tell them you're watching too much Fox News.
Yep,
Oh no, I thought that before. The TV man didn't tell me to think
that's right.
that. My opinions have long been established.
Mhm.
It's so wonderfully insidious to show how this ordinary woman on Coruscant is turning against the Gormans.
Right, because she doesn't have any connection to the planet in any other way other than she knows the clothes are good and her son now works on the planet. Like that's all she
Right.
has the connection to. And then she's immediately like, "Ugh, what an awful place. Like, why didn't you just be
They're
here
just
on
so
Coruscant?"
uppity. The blatant disregard. She's one of the few people in the show to call Palpatine by his name, which I
Right.
found interesting. This will matter a lot in episode 9, but generally people closer to the Imperial system
Yeah.
do not refer to the Emperor as Emperor Palpatine. And
I
she
think,
kind
yeah.
of she kind of humanizes him a little bit, which I do feel like maybe a result of the Imperial propaganda because we've seen HoloNet broadcast tend to refer to him as Emperor Palpatine. So that the
Yeah.
populace feels like they have that connection to him.
I think it's kind of like the only way I can like compare it is maybe like North Korea, kind of like where like they all love it's like this benevolent like president slash leader, and they all love him, and it's like blah blah blah. So she like I can imagine Edie has like a picture of Palpatine like in her house somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it's very much like a shrine to him somewhere kind of thing, and like they're just like, oh, he's so amazing. He's made everything safe for everyone, and
She
blah blah
is
blah blah blah.
definitely buying the Emperor Palpatine commemorative plates.
100%.
100% she's buying the Emperor Palpatine commemorative plates. I hate those fucking plates.
Plates
I've
or
hated them for 30
commemorative. Well,
years.
I guess these would be commemorative hollows in this
The
case. I don't
commemorative
know.
hollows
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
of
don't know.
Emperor
Whatever.
Palpatine.
Or maybe they have like a puck, like how they used to have the bounty pucks, like in Mandalorian, but it's like a puck, but it's like of Palpatine that she turns on every once in a while to just be like, oh, he's so beautiful and handsome, and I just love him so. Because I mean, technically, that's more her age group, right? Like she's like,
That depends. We don't know how old Palpatine is in canon. In
yeah,
Legends, he's pretty old
yeah. I mean, he's a
at
little
this
older.
point.
I would say he's probably in his 60s or something. Like that's probably not a bad guess. I would
Uh,
say.
I think I can get the exact number actually of
Oh.
when when he was born in Legends, at least.
Oh, okay.
I can get a number for you.
Now, obviously, he's a little wrinkly at this point, so it doesn't
Oh no, we
really.
do have a canon answer.
Oh, okay. How old is
Uh,
he?
Palpatine at this is what
Three
3
BBY.
BBY. Palpatine at this point in the timeline is 81 years old.
Holy Jesus Christ. Okay. I was not expecting 80, so she's actually a little too
She's
young
a
for
little
him.
young for him.
But
Yeah, he is
that's funny.
81 years old. He was born in 84 BBY.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well,
He's actually older in canon, apparently, than he is in Legends. In Legends, he was born in 82 BBY.
interesting.
I don't know why that changed. What is the source? The source is Star Wars timelines. Okay.
That's a good source. But yeah, I think that she's definitely drinking the Kool-Aid a little too much, unfortunately. But
Yes. And she is being listened to, you pointed out, by the Ghormans. Do you want to talk about any of these Ghorman actors? Because we got a bunch of.
There's so
We
many.
got
I think
5 new Ghorman actors that are going to, in some way, be important.
there's only 3 that are maybe worth mentioning up front. Because I think we can get to the guy who's giving the speech a little bit, maybe in the next episode or later on, because he's a little bit more
Okay.
important later on. And maybe even
Tell us the
the,
ones you
yeah.
researched.
Okay, so I did Carol Rylands, or is that how you say his name? Is it Carol Rylands? Is that how you say his name?
I pronounced his name Daddy.
It's not that. Okay. I was like,
That's the one I went with.
you went with Daddy Gorman.
But I do believe. Let me. It's Carol Rylands.
Oh, Carol Rylands. Okay.
Is how you actually pronounce this character's name.
Carol Rylands is being played by Richard Sammel. One random thing I had a note about him was he is fluent and acted in English, German, French, Italian, and Spanish. So he is very worldly, we'll call him. And I didn't recognize anything in his stuff because, like I said, he's lots of foreign films, lots of different things. So nothing stood out to me. But if you're really into foreign films or anything like that, check him out because he is a pretty good actor. So I feel like you might like some of his stuff. That was the main one that I did. And then I think I also have later on, I did Enza Rylands, his daughter. We find out a little bit later is his daughter, but she is, I don't know how to say her name. Elias, she has that umlaut on the I in her name, so I don't know how.
Sorry to
I
Enza
apologize to
Rylands.
her for not knowing how to pronounce her name.
I looked it up just to
Okay,
make
and
sure
then-
we're being respectful to this actress, Alais. A lot of
Okay.
these actors, I think, are some sort of European,
Yes,
French-ish,
which would make sense.
but I
Obviously.
think quite a few of the main ones are from.
Got it.
I think
Anyway,
quite a few of the main ones are from England.
the only thing I recognized in her body of work was one episode of Love, Death, and Robots, which I like that show. So I don't remember the episode, nor do I remember anything about it, but she's in it. So there you go.
Okay. Who's the third
That's
one?
the third one was the other. I don't know if is he his son or is he just a random Sam? That's all we get is just Sam is his name. He is being played by Abraham Wappler, and he does not have anything that I recognize either as well. So
Okay.
these are all pretty like I don't want to say unknown, but they're all fairly like newish actors, which is kind of nice. I like having like unrecognizable people, and maybe this is their launching pad, you know what I mean, for their careers. So, but it looks like he does a couple French films as well. So it's stuff that we wouldn't know, but if you're
Yeah, a
really
lot of
into
these
that, go for
actors,
it.
if they are not themselves French, they have done French cinema.
Right.
That's where a lot of these Ghorman actors are coming from because they really want to hammer home the French vibe. Did you know this is Space France, Bradley?
I think I got the hint that this was Space France.
Speaking of this being Space France, let's talk about the Ghorman language
Okay.
because it's not just random.
Oh.
Quoting from the StarWars.com trivia guide, quote, dialect coach Marina Tyndall created the Ghor language. But unlike other Star Wars written languages like Aurebesh, based on Galactic Basic, Ghor is only translatable if you understand its spoken component. 2 versions of the written Ghorman language were created, Ghorel or High Ghor, and Dixian or Low Ghor, named after graphic designers L. McKee and Lauren Dix. Now, my boyfriend and I, when we watched the show, I was very excited for him to get to Ghorman because my boyfriend speaks, we would say, conversational French. He's not totally fluent, but he can hold a conversation in French.
Right.
Because he did a French minor when he was in college. This pisses me off because what will happen is when he will get worked up about something, mind you, he is not French. French is not his first language. But he knows that it annoys me when he gets worked up about something, he will randomly lapse into French because I don't understand it. And so he will just start shouting French words at me that I don't fucking understand.
I love that.
And so when we watch these episodes, I turned to him and said, "Do you understand this experience now of not really understanding what?" That's what it sounds like when you speak French to me. Now, according to him, they are using like the base model for the Ghorman language. He thinks is a very like old version of French.
That
That it's not
sounds right. Yeah.
modern French, that they
Right.
went back to a very old version of French and built the Gorman language off that.
It
So
sounds
it's
like it. Yeah.
it kind of sounds like French, but it's not equatable to modern French. And he
Mm.
thinks the way they pulled that off was by going back to an older iteration of French.
That sounds correct, and I take that as the truth, and I will only accept that as the truth because I don't know any better.
Look,
Yeah.
he is unfortunately for me more of a subject matter expert on this than I am. We get the chanting in the square, the stop the building, which I think it's funny that this opening bit, the very first we ever see of the square, there are protesters in the square. And they sure feel pretty safe and secure protesting next to this monument.
Yeah, nothing seems like it's not that weird. There's no guards around. No one's like being like, oh, watching them. Like, it seems very much like, oh yeah, they're just protesting. Like, no big
Yep.
deal. Like, we don't have to worry about it. Compare it to what we may see in future episodes.
Yes. And I think that's deliberate on the
I
part of the Empire
think
to
so.
make them feel comfortable in this square. Let's talk about the info drop by the Gorman front to Syril because
Okay.
this is the most needlessly fucking complicated thing. These people are so try hard. They are so try hardy. Like we have hidden a candy in the spider, and on the wrapper of the candy there is a note that will lead you to a secret look at what?
Yeah, I don't I get it, but I don't because on the one hand I'm like, oh, they're trying to be secretive, they're trying to be new rebels, and it's like the start of a new thing, right? So they're obviously trying to be super like advanced and crazy with it. But on the other hand, I'm like, did you do that with all the other people, or are you just doing that with Cyril? Because I
Just
feel
Syril. Just
like
Syril.
everybody else just came to a town meeting. Like it wasn't like that big of a
Yep.
deal. Like
It's not like this is a secret meeting.
no, it seems very
They
public
have
almost. Yeah.
minutes that they post.
They're
Like it is
taking minutes.
clearly
Yeah, they're
a
taking minutes.
town
Yeah.
hall.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It would not be difficult for them to just be like, there's a meeting, you should come to it.
Yeah, it seems so extra.
It's so needlessly extra. And it partially is showing that these people are all flash and not a lot of substance.
Right, because I'm
Like,
thinking like it's almost like I know that this is not the case, but it almost seems like this is what you would do if you knew that the ISB was watching you, and then you wanted to like make play nice with them and be like, oh yeah, we're definitely a secret group trying to like get together and be secretive, like seems so obvious, but then like when you watch it back, you're like, why didn't they just tell them to come? Like it
yeah,
just
why didn't they just tell him to come to the meeting?
yeah,
It's
it is kind of
because
odd.
they have to be needlessly complicated, but
I
they're
think
also
so.
kind of bad at this.
Well, and it kind of parallels with I can't believe I'm saying this with the first arc with the unorganized rebels,
Hmm.
where this one is they're a little bit more organized, but they don't have the same like drive yet. They don't have the thing pushing them yet because they haven't quite been. I mean, they are being oppressed, but I don't think it's pushed them enough to where they're like actionable.
Right. And I think that the Gorman front at this point doesn't really seem to understand like what the consequences of their actions will be. We will talk about this more in episode 5.
Right.
There's some specific stuff that Kara Ryland says in episode 5 that really clues us in as to why the Gormans aren't really going to be successful as a rebel cell.
Right.
But I do also think part of it is just that they are needlessly flashy and they think that big statements are what's going to change hearts and minds and ultimately convince whoever they're trying to convince. We don't get to it in this episode. I do will note that even from this, a lot of visual setup, we see the transports.
Hmm.
Cyril walks and he's walking home and he ducks between a couple of transports.
Right. They're already setting up. There's some kind of thing happening. Yeah.
So we see the transports. He goes home. He realizes the Gormans are breaking into his house. He goes back to work, breaks into his work office, also being needlessly complicated for no reason. Just go to work just go to work 30 minutes early in the morning,
Yeah,
pretend
it's
to go
such
to
a
the bathroom
strange.
and go call because he's calling Deedra because he's working for Deedra.
Right, right.
He does identify these people as the Ghorman Front. We have heard the name the Ghorman Front before. It was in Saw's long speech of everyone who's stupid in season one. And honestly, he's kind of right.
There you
We have
go.
now met two of the people that he has ranted about in that speech, which are the Maya Pei Brigade and the Ghorman Front, and both of them are inept. We need to talk about the utter delight that Syril Karn has at playing spy. He is loving this so much. It is almost painful to watch.
Because he's finally getting what he's always wanted, which is to be important. For him, like he is the James Bond. He is doing the work for the ISB. They have secretly hired him essentially to do all this stuff. He's doing two things that he loves. He's going to work every day, being in charge of people, and then secretly on his off time, he's a spy. Like it's great.
Yep.
It's literally his dream come true.
Exactly. He gets to feel important. And there's this moment where he's like, oh, well, don't we want to take this to Partagas? Like, we've confirmed this is the Ghorman Front. And Dedra's like, no, keep going.
She's like, nothing's happened yet. Like, what do you mean?
It's like he really Syril Karn wants nothing more in his life than to be patted on the head by a well-meaning authority figure and told he did a good job. That is all he wants. I did want to note with the town hall scene, Blazine, who's the character who's giving the really aggressive speech, and then flips Caro Rylands off when he tells him to sit the fuck down.
Right.
And he's like, how about you fuck yourself? And it's fucking amazing. But we do get mention of something called the Tarkin Massacre.
Yes.
That apparently killed, according to a later scene, 500 Ghormans. And the new building that the Imperials are building seems sure like it's provoking the Ghormans by casting a shadow over this memorial.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was accidental. I'm sure the Imperials didn't mean to do that.
No, of course not.
No. I do think it's interesting looking at the scene where Syril meets with the leaders of the Ghorman Front. Here's the thing about Syril, right? He's kind of a dope. He's not a particularly like smart guy,
Right.
but he's smarter than these people because he is playing them very effectively in this scene. He is giving them basically nothing, and he's giving them just enough that they think he's jumping in, like he's amenable to them. Like he's playing just hesitant enough that it feels convincing, but not so hesitant that they think he's a lost cause.
Right. And I think he previously I think he was selling them in his private phone call with his mom, where he was kind of like, he was complimenting them. He was saying that they're being oppressed essentially and all this stuff and that it's not right what's happening to them. And then here, I think Caro asks him something about what's going on in the annex because you're a part of that, like you're able to check the shipments coming in or whatever, and he's like, I don't know, it's all classified, I don't know anything, like, and that's just inflaming Caro, which has already kind of made his decision on what's happening, which is that they're secretly building some kind of armory, right? He's kind of already convinced himself that that's already happening, which it is.
We know it is.
We know it is. However, Caro does not know that at this point. He's just assuming, and he is assuming correctly. And so I think Syril is just by saying things are classified and he's just kind of giving him that ammo to be like, oh yeah, that's obviously what's happening. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to watch this interaction between Syril and Caro, knowing where this plot line is going to go. It's very interesting, this meeting between these two characters, and how quickly Caro thinks he has recruited Syril to their cause.
Right. He's like, God damn, that was easy.
God dang, we really got this guy
We're
sympathetic.
really good at this rebel thing.
Oh yeah, we're so great at the rebelling stuff.
Section 3. At an ISB board meeting, Partagaz criticizes the lack of actionable intelligence on the rebel axis. Supervisor Lonni suggests the Empire is arresting more people than it can process. Partagaz agrees and mentions he'll speak with Emperor Palpatine about intake improvements. Deedra confronts Hurt about not updating her on Axis, and he maintains focus on results, not recognition, frustrating her. Lonni approaches and discusses Deedra's apparent jealousy over Hurt's assignment, and that night, Lonni meets meets with Luthen. He reveals Deedra's secret year-long operations on Ghorman. Luthen questions the Empire's motives, and Lonni admits he doesn't understand the full picture, but is working to solve it.
Do you ever have one of those moments where you distrusted someone and then they prove that they were a sneaky, backstabbing little bitch?
I don't know what you mean.
I clocked Hurt
Yeah.
all the way back in season 1. I clocked that that motherfucker was going to throw Deidre under the bus. I
Yeah.
completely clocked it. And he got the access desk when she got demoted.
Right.
And now he's being like, I don't want anything to do with
Yeah,
you.
he's like, I don't even care. Like, I have it, so what? Like, it's not that interesting. It's not that great of a promotion. You know what I mean?
Also, he's going to suck at running this desk.
Well, yeah.
He's going to do nothing with this desk for 4 years. So also, he's incompetent.
Yeah, it's so strange because I wish I knew. This is why this whole entire bit, the ISB stuff, like I was like, this is a different show that I want to see. Like, I want to see the Imperial show where they're all backstabbing each other and they're all fucking around. It's all politics. They're all like, I want to see the work show. It's The Office, but the Imperial politics show. That's really funny.
Had we gotten even one more season, I think this would have been expanded upon significantly.
Oh yeah, the whole Lonni and like what's his name? There's so many Imperial officers too. It's hard to keep track of all their names. Legret. So there's like
Supervisor Legret.
right. So there's the different dynamics between so like Legret and Lonni seem to be actually pretty good friends slash coworkers where he even invites him back later. He's like, hey, you want to talk later about it? I'm struggling too, kind of thing. Like they're actually pretty good work friends.
Everybody likes Lonni because Lonni will speak up for you in the meeting, and Lonnie's your buddy, and
Right.
you can tell Lonni things. You can tell Lonni, you can complain to Lonni about Deidre being on the Ghorman desk. Never mind, he wasn't supposed to know that.
Yeah.
Lonni is a very good spy.
He really is. I mean, for somebody who is very like timid and very like, oh no, they're always gonna like maybe they'll find out about me because I think Luthen's like, you haven't talked to me in 3 months, dude. Like you haven't given me shit. Like, so what's going on over there? And Lonnie's actually playing a pretty safe game. I mean, it's safe, but it is smart because everybody does, like you said, they trust him. Legret trusts him, Hurt trusts him, and honestly, even Partagaz respects him for saying the truth or saying things out loud that everybody needs because I think he compliments him. And he's like, let Lonni be a lesson to all of you. Like, this is what this room is supposed to be. Like, we're supposed to come up with the correct answer.
Lonni is very cautious and he's very political, and he
Right.
understands remaining somebody that the people in the ISB broadly like and are not going to backstab. And he also understands not giving up his position. We will ultimately see something has to be very bad. Something has to be apocalyptically bad for Lonni to finally decide to push the big red button on his entire career and decide that something is big enough that we're just going to throw everything out and run. And we haven't gotten there yet. I did find it interesting, this conversation between Hurt and Deidra, where she basically says you can keep all the glory. And he's like, I'm not in it for glory.
Right.
You are so Hurt. You are full of shit, man.
I don't know. I go back and forth on it because I feel like what he's doing is also kind of like demeaning her to be like, oh,
For sure.
that's why you got fired or that's why you got demoted because you were in it for the glory. I don't actually care about that because I'm better than you. So I don't know if he actually believes that. I think it's more so like he thinks that he's going to learn from her mistakes and then not make those same mistakes and then be better than her. Like, as like a weird underling kind of situation where he's like,
I
like
think
I'm
he's
gonna do
totally in it for the glory, and maybe he
Yeah.
hasn't even just admitted that to himself. But why else? Why else would he physically go along with the SWAT team in the last couple of episodes?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
come on, man. Hurt went from being a character that I was like, oh, haha, you're funny, but I am keeping my eye on you, to a dude I'm just like, go fuck yourself this season. Like, he sucks. This dude sucks super hard.
Like you said, that I think if this had been a season on its own, I think this would have definitely got expanded on. I think if Syril and Deedra didn't get together like by this season, I feel like there would have been something between him and Deedra that just momentarily that would have caused that rift to make him be like, ooh, I don't like her anymore. I'm gonna take her down kind of thing. Like I feel like there
We
would have
would
been
have
something there.
seen, I think, more of that demotion and the way that other people within the ISB viewed her demotion on Ghorman, because it's not something that really comes up in the show. She got demoted to do a lesser thing. Nobody knows she's on Ghorman. That's a secret project. And the whole thing that Partagaz pitched to her all the way back in episode 2 was, you take this, it looks like a demotion, but actually you're working for Krennic. And what Partagaz knows and Deedra doesn't know is that Krennic is the guy building the Death Star. So being somebody who can be relied upon by the guy who is building the Emperor's giant death ball is maybe a position you really do want to be in. I think that if things had shaken out differently for Deidre, I think that if she had not been so interested in this Axis thing that she's still obsessed with, she might have landed a pretty cushy gig on the Death Star.
That also would be a good thing.
No, she would have fucking
But you're right.
died.
You're right. But you're right. In the short term, it would have been a great thing. But yes.
Yes. Lonni goes down to meet with Luthen. I find it interesting that Deidre being on Ghorman is such a secret that really only her, Partagaz, Hurt, and now Lonni know. But I also find it interesting that Luthen immediately correctly clocks what's happening,
Right.
but can't act on it. The only thing he can do is dispatch Cassian to go check out the Ghorman front that's already there, because Luthen doesn't Luthen is not the rebellion. The rebellion is already at this part starting to grow beyond him, and he can only control so much at this point.
Right.
So he immediately knows what's happening. He's like, something is happening here. Deidre Miro is not the person you put on a smear campaign. This is an opening salvo. This is not the end game. We don't know what it is, but he has nobody he can send because he operates on like manipulating other partisan groups and sending his own agents in. That's like one or two elite guys.
Section 4. On Coruscant, Mon Mothma meets with Senator Dasi of Ghorman to seek support against Emperor Palpatine's Public Order Resentencing Directive, PORD. He insists that voting against PORD would endanger Ghorman, ultimately refuses to support her legislation. She continues lobbying other senators, but all seem reluctant to help her cause.
So this Mon subplot where they extend the PORD and she's trying to fight back and ultimately gets defeated, this would have been the entire subplot of the third season.
Oh, 100%.
This would have been rather like in season 1 where we got the entire season of financial chicanery. They are cramming this entire subplot because she will turn up again in a later episode for this arc, but she's very disconnected from the arc except for her conversation with the Ghorman senator.
Right. And like you said, I think this is just a quick bit just to introduce him to be like, oh, he's not doing anything about the Imperials on his planet because he really can't. He doesn't want to cause more problems for his people.
He's in a really unfortunate situation
Right.
where like he's got the Ghorman front on one side, but then he also knows that the Empire is looking for any excuse on the other side. And he's kind of in the middle and he's opted to play it super safe. I have to say though, this was one of my favorite scenes.
Of course it was. Oh my God.
Well, it's nice to watch Mon doing politics.
Because
And
that's
it's
the show
also-
you want to see.
That's the show I want. That's the show I wanted.
Of
I
course.
wanted this show and I only got one scene, but man, it was such a good scene. But also, worth pointing out, all of the other senators kind of suck.
Yeah, but I think that's just because senators in at
Well,
least
no,
they
it's
all
really
suck.
clever because if you're listening to what they're saying, it's all things like literally one senator goes, well, anyone can game numbers. I vote based on vibes.
Right.
What?
No, they do a really good
What
job
the
of just
fuck?
being like most people who are at least in the Senate are just going to be like, well, it's just my opinion. It's just like, I'm voting based on my conscience. I'm voting based what I feel is right, And she's like being like, here's what is actually right. And they're like, well, that's not what the galaxy is saying. That's not what the propaganda is saying.
So there's one really great moment where she's talking to a senator and he's kind of listening to her until she brings up Ghorman.
Right.
And he's like, "Ooh, I don't know if you want to be like associated with Ghorman right now. Like maybe it's not politically expedient."
Right.
to be associated with them. I will note, because this is our first time ever really seeing the Senate district laid out like this. And I do want to note, because one thing I thought to myself when I first saw some of these establishing shots and the establishing shots in later episodes of the Senate district, like, did they make this smaller? Because this feels smaller than it was in the prequels and in the Clone Wars. No. Quoting from the StarWars.com trivia guide, quote, ILM visual effects supervisor Mohin Leo overlaid the Valencia, Spain shooting location for Coruscant onto the Star Wars prequels layout of the Senate district to make it physically fit with what was previously established.
That's pretty impressive.
So they did figure out ways to make it. It is actually the size. And you'll also note, this is a spot we see it really well. It's missable in the prequels. I think it's more obvious in the Clone Wars that there's two large circular buildings. One of them is the actual Senate building. The other is the offices, the Senate offices. And we can actually see outside of Mon's window in her office, the Senate Plaza and the Senate building. Fun fact for you. That was it. That was all I had about this sequence. Okay. I fucking love this sequence. I wish that I got an entire season's worth of this subplot.
And you would have, and then you would have loved it, and it would have.
I would have loved it. It would have been amazing.
Half of our episodes would have been talking about the
politics
conversation she has.
I would have had whiteboards. I would have had fucking sticky notes. I would have been tracking votes for the senators.
There would have been a whole entire subplot of her like trying to put forth a bill, and she's getting all the signatures, and then at the last minute somebody changes their mind and it's a super turncoat kind of situation.
I wanted the Mask of Fear. I wanted the Mask of Fear again. I wanted them to do that book, but with Genevieve O'Reilly this time.
Section 5. On the planet Dakar, Saw Gerrera meets with Wilmon, who unveils a complex machine. Saw questions Wilmon about the machine's testing and origin, but Wilmon remains secretive, saying he's only there to teach variations. Saw assigns him to teach a partisan named Pluty how to operate the machine, but Saw changes the terms, forcing him to stay longer, signaling he will remain indefinitely until Saw is satisfied.
Yes, that is Dakar from the sequel trilogy, once again being shot at Greenham Common, the former Royal Air Force airfield and station. Now, do you remember how I mentioned there was 2 points where when I first watched this episode, I was like, I don't love this.
Okay.
Do you remember that? This was the other one. I did not love that they made Wilmon the explosives guy. And this was partially because I did not understand what this device actually did.
Right.
Because I associated Wilmon with the bomb he throws.
In the first season.
In the first season. So I went, I don't love optics-wise that they chose to make this character the explosives guy. Yeah. However, watching it a couple of times and also knowing where it goes, I thought that was a bomb. Like some sort of explosive that they were going to tap the Rhydonium and blow it up. No, they're stealing it. Right. That's an extraction machine.
Right. It just does. The machine just steals the stuff. Right.
Yes. Which I didn't get. So that's partially on me, but also it's not super clear.
Well, they didn't do a good job of explaining what it was. So yeah.
Well, so here's the problem is they gave the explanation to Saw Gerrera. And at this point, words Saw Gerrera says do not make fucking sense the first time you listen to them.
Yeah, he's a little kooky.
He is starting to lose it a little bit.
Because what does he say? Something about like, he's like, I just love to sniff it. Like, or something like he's like, talking,
I just love to sniff the rhino.
Yeah, he's like,
I love to huff rhino in the morning. Yeah. He's sitting over here sniffing markers.
He sounds like a crazy person when he's like, oh yeah, I just sniff the markers and then it just burns right through you and it's great.
Yeah. Don't sniff markers, by the way. It's very bad for you. Oh my lord. No, and also I think one interesting thing about Luthen, about Saw, is in this sequence we see that Saw is very fucking terrifying, and he knows he's very fucking terrifying, and he uses that to unbalance people. He's not crazy for no reason yet. He's deliberately doing this to set Wilmon off so that he can whack him with the, well, you're actually going to stay and teach all variations to our guy Because Saw is also not scared of other people at this
Mm.
point. He's not afraid of retribution from Luthen. What the fuck is Luthen gonna do? Come whine at him?
Or even show up. I mean, he'll never, I think he only showed up for like a second, right? In the first, oh, wait, no, I think he comes later in the next couple episodes or something. I can't remember what it was when they talk. Normally, he wouldn't show up in person.
Well, Luthen showed up in season one, but he
Oh, is
didn't
that what it was?
interact
Was it
with he
season one
didn't
they talked?
interact with Saw in season two. Yeah, when
Oh,
they're having the
okay.
conversation about Anto Krieger and
That's
that
what I'm
whole
thinking of.
thing,
Oh, okay, yeah. He's
Saw's
like, he's
like
never even gonna show up. Yeah,
Saw just doesn't respect Luthen anymore.
right.
Like Saw has moved beyond him. And this is also part of the thing too, is we're starting to see Saw beginning to become more hostile towards other rebel groups, where he basically kidnaps Wilmon.
Yeah. Well, hey, but at least he was able. He was like, hey, we'll get him a bed. We'll get him a place
We're
to
not gonna make him
sleep.
sleep on the floor.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, Saw cares slightly, I guess.
Good for him, kind of.
Kind of.
Way to make sure that the guy that is teaching your guy how to extract very volatile fuel so that you can huff it and use it for bombs maybe is sleeping well.
I will also say that this sub introduction of this subplot made me think that this arc, spoiler alert, I thought Wilman was gonna die this
Oh,
arc.
I thought that motherfucker was dead.
I thought he
Do you
was
remember that?
gone for the
Do you
count
remember that
on this.
shot in the trailer of the dead body on Dakar?
Yeah.
It's in one of the first trailers.
Hmm.
Dead ass thought that was Wilman. The
Same.
minute
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
him on Dakar and he was with the partisans, I was like,
I was
oh,
like,
that
oh, there it
motherfucker
is.
is dead.
Now we know who's
That
next.
motherfucker
Like,
is
yep.
dead. That
Um,
motherfucker is not going to be alive.
especially if you're gonna hang out with Saw Gerrera. I was like, okay, and you're not a part of his group. I was like, oh,
Oh,
honey,
yeah, you're
oh,
dead.
honey, you're
You're
gone.
dead. Spoilers, he does not die.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a weird switch and bait. I guess I just assumed,
You
but
mean
maybe that
bait
was
and
on us.
switch?
Or that's what I mean, bait and switch. I just thought it was like something that maybe they just tricked us into thinking was going to happen, and it definitely doesn't. So,
Oh, they definitely film it like this motherfucker's a goner because also Forrest Whitaker is continuing to act his ass off in this role. It's it really feels like he's a goner in this subplot. All right, well, that's all I had for everything. We have new writer and new director.
yes. So in my thing, the only person that's well, the director is the same. The it's still Ariel Cle Kleiman. I, I'm gonna keep messing that up. Anyway, it's the same director, different writer. So Tony took a sabbatical. He's taking a break from writing for a second. The new writer is Beau Willimon, and Beau Willimon has done not much that I have seen other than House of Cards. He's written 73 episodes of House of Cards, and
Yes, we
he was
remember him from season one.
right. And
Season
then
one,
he also did the movie The Ides of March.
which is an excellent political thriller movie.
So there you go.
Yes, he wrote the screenplay for The Ides of March. He wrote the screenplay for Mary Queen of Scots. He writes political thrillers, and
Right.
mainly his thing was writing House of Cards. He wrote all 6 seasons of House of Cards.
Previously, he wrote the Narkina
Yes.
plot of season one. So that was kind of his kind of claim to fame was the 8, 9, and 10 of season one. So, but he's going to do this current plot, this current arc is he's written the 3 episodes of this arc. So there you go.
All right, Bradley, do you have any final thoughts on this episode?
Final thoughts are this is clearly a building to something else episode. I agree that it's definitely good. I don't think that it's inherently a bad episode. I just think it's a lot of info dump at the beginning of the arc, which tends to be the theme for this show. I mean, I maybe my thoughts will change, but so far this has been the pattern where we get a lot of info dump in the first episode. The second one's kind of like okay, we're getting to the just get us to the next episode, and then we get a little bit more of a oomph of the story. But so far, this is definitely a huge info dump episode, but I still enjoyed it.
My final thought is yes, definitely. This is like a huge setup episode. The benefit, though, is it is going to set up 6 episodes as opposed to setting up 3. That is one
Right.
nice thing about it. And also part of why I think it is the way it is. is particularly with the Ghorman front and setting up a lot of things, walking us through the plaza, showing us the city, introducing us to pretty much all of the Ghorman characters within this subplot. That's going to be helpful in setting up. And then once, even though we will have the time skip between 6 and 7, we don't have to do a lot of setup again in episode 7.
Exactly.
We will be setting up a different location in episode 7, but Ghorman is established here and now. Other than that, I think this episode is fine. It's definitely one of the weaker episodes of the season. I'm glad I got to watch these 3 at a time, and also this is kind of the weakest arc of the season as well, just because even the whole arc is just set up for where episodes 7 and 8 are going to go.
Yeah.
Pluggables. Bradley works on a shitload of reality TV, and you can watch it on Bravo or Peacock or wherever you get your reality TV, or Netflix. I don't know. Google it. It's really, really easy. You can find such shows as Temptations Island, Queen's Court, King's Court, The Circle. That one's on Netflix. I know that for sure. And later seasons of Married to Medicine. When is King's Court coming out again, Bradley? July 13th? On Bravo.
On Bravo.
Yes. I will learn this by July 13th. You can also find me on the Star Wars TTRPG podcast For Light and Dice. That is a actual play TTRPG set in the High Republic era. And there is an announcement, and I don't know if I'm allowed to make that announcement yet with regards to it. So maybe next week, who knows, we'll see. You can also find queer mystery, thriller, crime, serial books that I write. Those are on Amazon, Kobo, and Barnes & Noble. Those are called Beach House Studios. The 3rd book is coming out May the 31st, so it will have come out 2 days ago when you listen to this. That is exclusive to Amazon until September. All right, Bradley, we just got to make it through this arc.
Okay.
And then we can get to all the really, really
real
crazy stuff.
Gotcha.
Oh, Lord. Please run our socials. Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com and let us know. You can follow us on BlueSky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Gold Squadron Gaze. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Gold Squadron Gaze, where we post full episodes of this podcast. If you like the podcast, you can also rate us and review us on your favorite podcast app of choice. Please join us next week and every week for another episode of Gold Squadron Gaze. Listen, you will never hurt me more than my father telling me that he watched Young Sheldon and it reminded him of a young me. You will never hurt me like my father hurt me when he told me that.